Hello. For this week's project, we are going to take a sketch of a room, an empty room that you create, and then you're going to photograph it and then put it in Photoshop and do a little retouching. So the first thing when I was sketching this, I used a light pencil and then I went over it in a dark pencil when I had the lines where I wanted, and I erased whatever lines I didn't. Then the other thing is I did it during the day so I could photograph it in front of a window. If you photograph it at night, usually there's an overhead light source and you end up with the shadow of your phone over your image. So it's better if you can do it during the day in front of a window. The other thing is try to get it as squared up in the frame of your camera as you can. So here you can see it's pretty well squared up. And then I emailed it to myself and I opened it in Photoshop. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I am going to put on my glasses and I am going to rotate my page. So I have under File, Image rotation, sorry, Image rotation, and I am going to rotate this 90 degrees clockwise. Okay, so what I tried to do is draw 3 walls in a room and I put in a coffered ceiling. So I'm going to blow this up a little bit. And I am going to try to balance out the light. So how I go to do that is I go into Adjustments, Brightness and Contrast. And then I am going to play up the brightness and play up the contrast and see what I get. So I may have to pull back on the brightness. I pull the contrast all the way. I don't want the lines to fade too much. I don't want it to be too grayish. So I think, for me, I think this is a pretty good place. Okay, so, okay. Then the next thing I want to do is crop this in pretty tightly. So I am going to start here and look at this. You know what? Sometimes I like to crop it first, but I'm noticing holding this, I can see where it's off center. I think what I'm going to do is first go to distort it. What I like to do is drag in these guidelines from the side. I'm going to split the difference here. You see over here is even with the bottom, over here is even with the top. I'll split the difference, and then I'm going to put one, again, split the difference at the top, and I think the bottom actually looks pretty good. Yeah. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is grab this all and Command T and go to Transform. And I am going to distort, which you guys are all familiar with. And I'm going to pull my edges up to get it to fall within these lines. Now, so this is wavering about here. So I could just pull my image off the screen and that would be fine. And you can do that, but I'm going to show you another technique just in case you're ever working on something where that's not fine. So if you go back under Transform, if you go to Warp, Warp gives you another option. It gives you these extra points here so you can pull something up in the middle. Okay, and so then I can pull this corner back down there if I want. So you can get a little bit closer in there. Basically what I want to do is I want to crop off all that shadow on mine. So I'm going to set this so I hit the arrow. And then my cropping guidelines are already there. I'm going to crop within these guidelines here. I was selected still, so I needed to unselect. That's why I was having that funky problem there. If ever something doesn't work, click somewhere off of your image like that, and you might not see what's happening, but there might be something that's selected that you're not aware of. And then you go to Image, Crop, okay? So we were in Transform, we did Distort, and then we did Warp, and then we did, through Image, we did Crop. Okay, so here is my sketch. Now I'm going to zoom in here. You can still see some of my eraser lines. So you can go in with the eraser tool and make that a little bit bigger. And so one of the things that might happen with the eraser tool is, see, you get this total white line there, which might not suit you. So there is the spot healing tool, which is, I did show it to you briefly at one point. So what it looks like is I'm drawing a black line here, but it actually, what it does is it resamples, like see this little dot? It looks at what is all around it and it cleans it up. It's really quite fabulous and amazing. So I'm just drawing over and it's looking around, seeing what should this look like? What will clean that up? Sometimes it's better to mess around a little bit all over instead of just drawing a nice clean line, but you get it. So you should try to clean it up. That's what I do when I'm teaching you guys. I can't stop trying to clean something, but you don't need me to watch me clean everything up on this. So I'm going to let it go and I'm going to put this on pause for a moment. Okay, so I'm going to put a wallpaper on one of my walls. And I like this one, Pedal Pusher. I actually have it in my house. And I'm looking at this selection I found in Google, and I want to get the piece that has the most stuff in it so I don't have to repeat the pattern. So if you remember when we did the piece of wood last week, we only had a small section. We had to keep repeating it. So this one on the upper left was the best. It showed me the most stuff going on, where this one, it's much larger resolution, so I'd only get a tiny piece of that. So here I have the nice big one. I clicked it to make it bigger, and then I clicked to get to the site, because when I just dragged it, it doesn't work. And so actually here's where I got it on the site, and then I dragged it from the site. If you have problems, again, just use a screenshot when you get it as large as you can. That should work. And so then I go back to Photoshop. I've already opened this in Photoshop. So now wallpapers have a repeat. So I'm looking at this area right here that I need to cover, and it's got a big flower and a little flower. So I see the big and one's slightly medium after it. Big, 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 big. So this is where I want to resample to cover this. So I'm looking, this starts right about on this flower, which is right over here. So if I get out my rubber stamp tool, clone stamp tool, my clone stamp tool, and I hit the option, which would be Alt, I believe, in PC. Right here. And then I go back and you can see that little shadow over top in that little hole. It's showing what I'm copying. And so I line it up and then I just start pasting. And I realize that I have it, the opacity set at 22%. So I just go back in here at 100% and I can go over just the areas that need to be gone over. Oh, you know what I'm noticing is the wallpaper is in shadow over here a little bit. So you notice the whites and the tone of the gold are a little bit different. I thought I didn't have to go over everything, but it looks a little patchy there. So I can go and work on this. I realize I probably should have started with the bigger brush, but just gonna keep going at it. lines up still. See why I'm getting the copying the book there, because I've run out of the area that I sampled from. I just want to double check, make sure I get everything clean, and where the light and dark sort of hit. I don't need to get it perfect, but I want to make sure. See, I notice the contrast here is not so great, so I want to soften. You know, I might just clean in around one flower, and then outside that flower might be fine. Okay. All right. Now I need to pick up and look for where I need to start copying over here. So I'm going to grab this flower here and go over here and align it. Right there. Right, okay. And then I'm going to paste over this area here. Okay. Clean it up. So there's my sample. Okay, so now I am going to save this. And then I am going to drag over it, copy, bring it into my room, and paste. Okay, so I am going to put this on this wall so you folks all remember how to Command T, and then I'm going to go in and distort. Pull this back to fit in there. So now I have a wavy line there, so I'm going to go over that, and I'll fix that in a moment. Pull this down, and I need to zoom out to get a little more space to get leverage here. So I want to make sure I feel like I'm getting that pattern the right, you know, is it that amount or this amount? You know, is this the right scale of this pattern? You know, should I have actually made more of it? And I think it's fine. It's a pretty large pattern. I think I was lucky with this one. I didn't really have to do very much retouching. So I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to put it on pause so that I can, you know, I'm not going to put it on pause right now. I'm going to go and I'm going to click my background to unlock it, and I'm going to duplicate my background. I'm going to duplicate that layer, and I'm going to bring it up in front of here. And what I'm going to do is create a mask, and I'm going to go back and I'm running out of time on this video, so I'll do the mask in the next one. Okay.